So, all right, we've delayed it long enough. I'm not even going to intro it. Tom,
we don't have to talk about it.
No, we do.
It's an old adage in TV. If you don't bring attention to it, then it won't be highlighted. We didn't need to talk about maybe the worst loss in the history of Penn State football this past weekend to arguably the worst team in Power 4, a winless UCLA team who had fired its head coach, fired its defensive coordinator, mutually parted ways with its offensive coordinator. Its signal caller, play caller on offense was Jerry Neuheisel, who had 2 days to install the game plan and has made it clear that he didn't even understand how a headset really worked on the sideline because he's like 33 years old and he's just figuring this out. There was everything in this game went wrong. It's incredible to see a systemic failure like this from a James Franklin coach team, whether that's at Vanderbilt or at Penn State. It is so uncommon and unlike what his teams have looked like, especially at Penn State. Defensively, Jim Knowles and company getting gashed with Nico Iamaleava, 5 touchdowns. We knew going into the game that he was going to be center of the universe, running the ball, throwing the ball. They basically copied Oregon's game plan and put it into effect, and it killed Penn State. I don't know what it was, whether it was a cross-country trip, whether it was the emotional letdown after such a big loss to Oregon, or just not taking your opponent seriously. But this was an undisciplined effort by Penn State's defense. It looked like an uninspired effort from the entire team. And I know James Franklin is doing his press conference right now in front of the media in State College saying that he doesn't believe that the players have quit or given up. Could have shocked me based on a lot of the body language that you saw on Saturday afternoon. Offensively, Penn State, for some reason, thinks Nick Singleton is a good running back. He is a great athlete, but he's not the best running back on the roster. And James Franklin has said, yeah, we should have gotten Kaytron Allen the ball more. All the oopsie-daisy things of James Franklin's tenure at Penn State happened in this game. Head-scratching offensive calls, a 3rd and 9 QB draw, a 4th and 2 failure. The middle 8 horribly managed, just burning 90 seconds in the final 2 minutes of the first half for seemingly no reason and coming away with nothing. The running game had its struggles. This wide receiver core on paper is better than last year's, but is as absent as last year's wide receiver core. I give credit to Drew Aller, and I have been maybe the most critical of Drew Aller. He fought. He played as good of a game as he could have. 200 yards passing, 73% completion percentage, scores running the ball 11 times for 78 yards, 7.1 yards per carry, 2 touchdown passes in this game. Again, it was the same thing, essentially, what Penn State suffered against Oregon. It wasn't until the final quarter against the Ducks that they realized our only hope is to throw the QB run game at the wall and see if it works. And that's not Drew Aller's game. That's not what Penn State wants to do. I have never seen a complete team failure like this in my time as a Penn State football fan, and especially seeing what James Franklin has done. But here's the fun reminder for all the Penn State fans that do tune in for this. James Franklin's buyout is currently $56 million. And his contract runs through 2031. So what you should really be paying attention to is to see if Dr. Neely Bendapudi, the president of Penn State, and Pat Kraft, the athletic director, say, you know what, James, we think you're doing a great job. Let's extend your contract. If I'm them, I don't give him another conversation about a bleeping contract until you get to the years where it drops $8.5 million annually and it's a more friendly number, because this is a team playing Moneyball, for the record. This is a team, thanks to analytics guy Andy Frank and the tight-fisted manner of this community. As someone who's a part of the community, I get it. This is not a spendthrift team. This is not Oregon, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, where they are prepared to pay top dollar for people. They did that with Jim Knowles. They did that to retain a lot of this roster. But now you're at a position where it's like, how many of the guys on the team, the players, look at this season as like, well, we came back, 1, to pursue a national championship, 2, to help our draft stock, 3, to make more money. One of those, and arguably the most important one, the national championship. There is no way the team that just played on Saturday is even credibly contending for the national championship. It was heartbreaking.
I'll get right back to the video, but first, let me tell you about Sleeper's brand new promotion. We've been telling you guys about them for over a month now, but if you've been waiting to deposit because you're cheap like me or just don't want to put money in, you don't have to wait anymore. Sleeper will offer you a free $20 right now with no deposit required. Use our code CFA for a free $20 entry. First-time users still get that 100% deposit match up to $100, but if you've been waiting to deposit, you can go play right away. We'll talk about Sleeper more on our Wednesday live on the Power 2 when we play the more or less game before this weekend's action. Make sure to check out Sleeper's terms of use because terms and conditions do apply, but appreciate Sleeper for their support. Run and get your free $20 right now by using our code CFA.
They're not going to the playoffs. That's for dang sure. They may go 9-3. 8-4 is a possibility with Indiana and Ohio State still available. Tom, I'm going to make it a little bit worse because I feel like that we got to talk about the other few things. Number one, UCLA. They had lost to two G5 teams coming into this matchup, including New Mexico with a first-year head coach in Jason Eck and Jack Lane, a former FCS quarterback. They have never led in a game this season. They led the entire game. They had a 19-minute differential in time of possession. Nico Iamaleava had 128 rushing yards. He actually lived up to the expectations as the quarterback that was envisioned when he left Knoxville. On top of all that, you already mentioned a play caller in Jerry Neuheisel, who had 2 days to prepare and said in the press conference afterwards, I forgot that I had to use the microphone. You're paying over $8 million for your two coordinators, and you're paying over $3 million to go ahead and bring in a guy that you thought was the difference in your team. He allowed over 447 yards. They punted once. They scored on their first 5 drives. And just to go ahead and remind everybody about the buyout, here's who ranks ahead of Penn State in the Big Ten going into week number 7. UCLA, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Maryland, Northwestern, and Washington all have at least one more win over the number 2 preseason team in the college football rankings back in August. It is bad. It is a bad, bad day to be a Nittany Lion fan. But I give a little bit of credit. At least it was fun to see Rick Neuheisel celebrate with his kid.
Yeah, I mean, a golden father and son moment. That's what I took away from Saturday.
Money well spent by UCLA on Nico Iamaleava. If that's what we're going to get from him moving forward, I will give credit.
I know. Listen, it was interesting seeing him at Tennessee because they seemed destined to try and make him a pocket passer. And you heard all this of like, yeah, he is nimble, he can move, but like they don't want to do the QB run thing. This was outstanding. A wide receiver core that just did all the right things at the right times. Like they didn't have better personnel at wide receiver than Penn State had at defensive back. They certainly played a cleaner game. Penn State's defense was undisciplined and made a ton of mistakes, but they played the short pass. The ball was out of his hands in 2 seconds, exactly what Dante Moore did, just with better athletes against Penn State. And ultimately, you were able to kill him over the top in select circumstances when the defense came up. Penn State's lack of depth at linebacker is astonishingly bad. The lack of depth at the defensive line was something we talked about in the offseason. And it's Deni Dennis Sutton and Zane Duran against the world. And even then, those two guys didn't make much of a difference. Deni Dennis Sutton had a very bad game. So to me, it illuminated, one, how otherworldly Abdul Carter was last year. And two, there is not another game on Penn State's schedule that you can realistically look at and say, well, they should win that because you should have beaten UCLA. So now you're at home against Northwestern this coming week, at Iowa. I've said it before, at Kinnick, the 2 scariest words in Big Ten football. You get a bye, then you go to Ohio State on November 1st. November's brutal. You host Indiana. You're at Michigan State. Okay, that's a little bit of a reprieve. You host Nebraska. And then you are at Rutgers to end the season. There's nothing left on this schedule where I sit here and I'm like, oh, that's absolutely a win, because you just proved you can't take anything for granted. Penn State has to win out to make the college football playoff.
Yep.
There is that slight glimmer fraction of a percentile that if you do win out and you beat freaking Ohio State on the road and you beat Indiana and you endure all these tests, maybe you get your mojo back. There's still time. But James Franklin and company, since the Oregon loss, have been hanging their hat on, well, last year, Ohio State lost 2 conference games and won the national championship from the first round. This is not Ohio State. There is no track record of this football program being able to overcome situations like this.
You know what? The other thing that's really frustrating is
What is it?
I mean, the way that James Franklin began the press conference talking about all the things that went wrong throughout the week and all the things that were an issue that probably hurt the team. Brother, this is your team. Like, this falls on you first. And like, there's a joke by Bill Burr talking about people losing their jobs. I won't say on here because it's a little bit raunchy and I don't want to go that far. And we're not that type of show. But still, there's a thing to where if you just move a word in the front, we're talking about you in a completely different light. But you put all the blame on everything else first and then said, well, I take full responsibility of it. That's not a leadership thing. That is a absolute travesty. No moral, no life in the locker room, no reason that people want to play for you kind of moment. And if I don't mean to kick you while you're down, Tom, this is the first time a team has lost to an 0-4 roster after trailing by double digits since 1985. So, I mean, even his